Hello everyone and welcome to episode 1 of the series where we are going to be learning C++ from scratch. Now in this episode it's all going to be about, starting up your first program and actually getting it to run. And the first thing I want to get into before we start coding anything is why use C++? Well, C++ has a wide range of applications such as, operating systems, games like Unity and Unreal Engine. We have website or web browsers like Chrome and Firefox. We have desktop applications like Photoshop and Blender. Even SpaceX rocket software or trading systems in financial markets are all written in C++. Okay, and one of the main benefits of C++ is the performance. You have direct hardware control and very little overhead, which makes it great for low latency requirements. It's also very versatile and can be applied to many different fields. C++ can pretty much do anything, and that's really why it's such an important thing to learn. People shy away from it because it's more difficult than other programming languages, but it can also be more rewarding. And you clicked on this video for a reason. So with that all in mind, I will see you in our IDE. Okay, now that we are in our IDE, we can actually get to coding. Now, you may notice that I'm using Visual Studio Code. Again, you can use any IDE of your choice. It doesn't really matter. You are also allowed to use any C++ compiler of your choice. It doesn't matter. In our case, we're going to use G++ or GCC, and we are going to be using Visual Studio Code. If you want to know how to set those up, go look on YouTube. There's plenty of videos to do that. In this video, or this series rather, we're going to focus more on C++ itself. So now that we're in the IDE, we have an empty project. We're going to make a file and we're going to call it main.cpp. Now, main is the main entry point for your program, and every single C++ project needs to have a main function along with the main.cpp usually. Right? You can rename it to whatever you want, but it needs to have a main function. Now, how does a main function look like? It looks like this, int main, like that. And it's just a function that has the name main and returns an integer, right? This is the return type, this is the name of the function, and it has no parameters in the brackets, as you can see over there. These curly braces are the function body, and you type stuff over here. Now, you may be wondering, okay, it returns an int, but why? What is that? Well, basically when the main function runs, it will return a error code. If it returns 0, it means everything has run successfully. If it returns 1, there's been an error somewhere. You have various different error codes, but those are the main ones. If I don't return anything, you might get a compiler warning, but it should automatically return 0 in this function if you don't explicitly write it. But it's usually a good idea just to put it there, return 0. Great. This is our main entry point for our program. Again, we're just going to lightly go over this. Not too much details because this is just the first episode. We just want to get something on the screen. And what we want to see in the console is maybe a little hello world, the usual. So how would we do that? Well, we have to hashtag include iostream. This hashtag include is a preprocessor directive. This gets run the moment we press compile. Okay, we'll get into more detail with that now and in later videos, but this is saying I want this library in this file. I want to, use it. I want to be able to use it. So we're getting the iostream library, which is a C++ library, and it is the input and output stream library. This allows input and output devices communication, like with the console and writing to files, things like that. Okay, these angle braces say that we want to look in the C++ standard library for this library itself. Equivalently, you could write this. Okay, this will also work, but the benefit of using angle brackets for C++ libraries is it looks there first for the library. And it's usually the convention. You want to use quotation marks for your own libraries, your own files that you write, okay? Again, will be touched on in a later video. Now that we have the the iostream library, we're gonna write a little hello world std end line, just like that. This cout is the console out, okay, and we are streaming to it our hello world message, and then we are ending the line. Don't need to go into too much detail right now. This is just how we write to the console. Okay, so if we build this with our G++, pressing Ctrl Shift B, obviously this will change depending on your IDE that you're using. You'll see it build successfully. We get our little exe, we run it, and there's hello world in our console. Sorry, I ran this previously, but there's our hello world in the console. Now let's go over a bit about the flow of what happens when we compile and what happens when we actually run the exe. How do we get to the exe? Let's go over that. Okay, so the flow of things is we have our CPP file. Then when we actually click to build our project or compile our project, the first thing that happens is the preprocessor. Now, if you recall, that is what actually processed that hashtag include. And this will also process macros. If you don't know what that is, that's fine. We'll go over it later. But this hashtag include, what it does is it will literally go to, for example, the IOStream library, take all the code there and just paste it into our project. That is what the preprocessor does. It's just a copy paste that library, boom, there's the code. Then the compiler will run. The compiler will translate our C++ code into assembly code. It also check for like syntax errors, things of that nature, and give you an error is if there is a syntax error. It will then create files that have the .o or .obj for object files, okay, and this is our assembly code. After that, the assembler will run, which translates our assembly code into machine code, which is just binary, ones and zeros. And this is what the CPU can actually understand, you know, machines can read that. After that, finally, the linker will run, which will combine all our code with library code and just mash it all together into one project, right? All our different files and OBJ files now mashed together one project. And you may get linker errors here, which again, we probably go over in a later video, but the whole idea of the linker is to put everything together and generate that .exe that we can actually run in the end. And now, unlike Python or JavaScript, C++ is compiled. That means it's translated to machine code before running, and that's why it's so fast, okay? It's not an interpreted language like Python or JavaScript, which goes from code that the interpreter reads and then runs, right? In C++, it goes from code to machine code and then runs. Very quick, okay? Now, let's go back to the code for some interesting things, you know, that we can actually look at. Okay, now that we're back in the code, let's go over some things that we may have missed. So you may notice that every line ends in this semicolon, like over there with return 0 and this printing thing. So if we remove that, you should see some errors, you know, expected a semicolon, just to show that C++ is a language where you will need to put these semicolons. It's also a language where capitalization matters. So if we capitalize that cout, doesn't work. We have to do that. Now, if we remove the std, it also does not work. So this std is a namespace. We will go over this in another video, along with a scope resolution. Okay? And these are required to know where this cout comes from. And just to give a little preview, if we say using namespace std like that, suddenly now we don't need to use the cout. Oh, sorry, the std with the cout. Okay, we'll get over using namespaces in another video and why it could potentially not be a good thing. But this is just a bit of a preview of that. Also, if we remove the hashtag include, suddenly we don't know what cout is and we don't know what end line is, okay? If there's a mistake like this, oh, there you go. It's not a mistake, right? So the headers like this, it can be written like this, correct? Because if we build, you will see it builds successfully. So the headers themselves that we are including from the libraries do not need to be case sensitive. That's just something interesting for you to know. Now, I hope this was informative, and yes, it's not a very interesting video, but the idea is to build from the foundations up. So right now we have something simple on our screen and we can build on from there. So if you enjoyed the video and you'd like to learn more about C++, because we are going from the very beginning, which is this, to the very, very advanced, that a lot of YouTubers are not covering right now, those advanced topics. They sort of stop in between, you know. We're going to be covering that. So if you're interested, then stay tuned, keep watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below. It doesn't necessarily have to be about this. It could be any C++ related question, okay? And I will answer it. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.